To my family, if you're hearing this, it means I'm already gone. But before you take what I left behind, there's something you need to know. Because this isn't a will. It's a confession. What started as a routine reading of a will would expose secrets buried for decades, destroy a family, and reveal a plan so calculated it didn't end with his death. Before we get into this, I'm curious, where are you watching from? Drop your city below. I read every comment. The room was too quiet. Not the peaceful kind of quiet, the kind that presses against your chest and makes it hard to breathe. The kind that makes you aware of every small movement, every swallow, every heartbeat. Linda sat at the edge of the polished wooden table, her hands clenched tightly in her lap. Across from her, Emily stared at the floor, her fingers trembling slightly. Jason leaned back in his chair, arms folded, jaw tight, like he didn't want to be there at all. The lawyer adjusted his glasses, glancing down at the document in front of him. Then he hesitated. And that was the first sign, something wasn't right. This is not a standard will, he said quietly. Linda's head snapped up. What does that mean? The lawyer didn't answer immediately. Instead, he reached into a small case beside him and pulled out a recorder. The click echoed in the room like a gunshot. A voice filled the silence. Calm. Controlled. Familiar. Daniel. To my family, the recording began, steady and cold. You thought you knew me. Linda froze. You didn't. Emily's breath caught in her throat. Jason shifted, his expression hardening. The voice continued. If you're hearing this, then it's finally time you knew the truth. Linda felt something inside her tighten. Not fear. Not yet. Something worse. Confusion. Because the man she had spent 32 years with, the man she had buried just days ago, didn't sound like himself. Or maybe, he finally did. Before that moment, everything had made sense. Daniel Whitmore had been the kind of man people respected. He worked hard. He provided. He showed up when it mattered. At least, that's what everyone believed. Their house wasn't extravagant, but it was warm. Lived in. Full of memories. Thanksgiving dinners that lasted too long. Christmas mornings filled with laughter. Summers where the windows stayed open and the air smelled like grass and sunlight. Linda had built her life around those moments. Around him. He's not very expressive, her friends used to say. But you can tell he loves you. And Linda believed that. Because love doesn't always look like grand gestures. Sometimes it looks like consistency. Stability. A man who comes home every night. But there were things she ignored. Little things. The way he sometimes went quiet for no reason. The way he would disappear into his study and lock the door. The late-night phone calls he'd step outside to take. At the time, they didn't feel like secrets. Just habits. Just. Daniel. Emily had noticed it too. There were nights I'd hear them arguing, she would later say. Not loud, but sharp. Like something was being said that wasn't supposed to be heard. But every morning, everything went back to normal. Smiles. Breakfast. Routine. Like nothing had happened. And that was the thing about the Whitmore family. They were good at pretending. Daniel's death came without warning. One moment, everything was normal. The next, it wasn't. A sudden collapse. A rushed drive to the hospital. Machines. Doctors speaking too quickly. Linda remembered the smell of antiseptic. The coldness of the room. And Daniel, lying there, smaller than she had ever seen him. He looked at her once. Really looked. And squeezed her hand. Take care of them, he said. Linda nodded through tears. Of course. We'll be okay. But there was something in his eyes. Something she couldn't understand. Not fear. Not regret. Something heavier. And then, he was gone. The funeral was quiet. Not peaceful. Not comforting. Just, quiet. People came. They said the usual things. He was a good man. He loved his family. You were lucky to have him. Linda nodded. Smiled when she had to. Thanked people when she could. But inside, something felt off. Like she had missed something important. Like there was a piece of the story she hadn't been told. She just didn't know what it was yet. 3 days later, the lawyer called. There's something your husband left behind, he said. He requested that it be presented to the entire family, together. Linda frowned. Can't it wait? I'm afraid not. He was very specific. And that's how they ended up there. In that room. Listening to his voice. You thought you knew me, Daniel repeated. A pause. But you didn't know everything. Jason scoffed quietly under his breath. Emily shot him a look. Linda didn't move. Her eyes were fixed on the recorder. You saw what I allowed you to see, Daniel continued. You believed what was convenient. Linda's chest tightened. Daniel, she whispered under her breath, as if he could hear her. But the truth, he said, is not convenient. The lawyer shifted uncomfortably. Should I? No, Linda said quickly. Keep playing it. I built everything you're about to receive, Daniel's voice went on. Every dollar. Every asset. Every opportunity. A pause. And not all of you deserve it. Jason sat up straighter. What the hell is that supposed to mean? Emily shook her head. Just listen. Linda felt her fingers dig into her own skin. This wasn't right. This wasn't Daniel. Or maybe, it was. Jason, the recording continued, you always thought I didn't see you. Jason's face hardened. I saw everything. Silence. You just never lived up to anything worth rewarding. Jason stood up abruptly. This is ridiculous. Sit down, Linda said sharply. For the first time, her voice carried something other than grief. Authority. Or fear. Emily, Daniel's voice softened slightly. You were always the one I believed in. Emily's eyes filled with tears. But belief can be misplaced. Her breath caught. And Linda. The room went still. Linda stopped breathing. You betrayed me first. The words landed like a blow. Her head snapped up. What? I spent years watching, Daniel continued. Years pretending not to see what was right in front of me. Linda shook her head slowly. No, no. Her voice was barely a whisper. I gave you everything, Daniel said. And you gave me lies. I didn't, Linda started, but the words collapsed in her throat. Because suddenly, memories started surfacing. Moments she had buried. Conversations she had avoided. Choices she had justified. One of you, Daniel said calmly, is not my child. The room shattered. Emily gasped. Jason's head whipped toward Linda. What is he talking about? Jason demanded. Linda's mouth opened. Closed. Opened again. But nothing came out. Because she didn't know how to answer. Not anymore. Emily's voice trembled. Mom, what is he talking about? Linda's heart pounded so loudly she could hear it. I don't know, she said weakly. But even as she said it, she knew that wasn't true. The recording continued. I kept the truth to myself, Daniel said. For years. A pause. Not because I didn't know what to do, but because I knew exactly what I was going to do. Jason stared at the recorder like it had personally betrayed him. "What did you do?" he muttered. "I waited," Daniel said simply. "And I planned." The lawyer reached forward and paused the recording. "I think we should." "No," Emily said, her voice breaking. "Play it." Linda sat frozen. Her entire life, her entire marriage, was unraveling in front of her. And she couldn't stop it. Because this wasn't a conversation. It was a verdict. "You see," Daniel continued when the recording resumed, "truth is powerful. But timing is everything." A slow breath. "And I wanted you to hear it, when it would hurt the most." Linda closed her eyes. Tears slipped down her face. This wasn't grief anymore. This was something else. Something darker. "I didn't just want you to know the truth," Daniel said. "I wanted you to feel it." The room felt smaller now. Like the walls were closing in. Like there was no escape. "Everything you're about to inherit," Daniel went on, "comes with conditions." Jason laughed bitterly. "Of course it does. To receive what I built," Daniel said, "you will tell the truth." Emily shook her head. "No. Every secret," Daniel continued. "Every lie." Linda's chest tightened. "Publicly." Jason swore under his breath. Emily started crying. Linda felt something inside her collapse completely. "And if you refuse," Daniel said calmly, "then everything will be donated." Silence. "Because if I couldn't trust my own family with the truth," Daniel said, "then I certainly won't trust you with my legacy." The recording stopped. No one moved. No one spoke. And in that moment, they all realized the same thing. This wasn't a will. It was revenge. And it wasn't over. Linda sat there, her hands shaking, her mind racing through years of memories she had tried so hard to forget. Because now, she understood. Daniel hadn't been confused. He hadn't been blind. He had known. All along. Emily wiped her tears, her voice barely steady. "Mom, is it true?" Linda looked at her daughter. And for the first time, she didn't know how to protect her. Jason leaned forward, his voice sharp. "Who isn't his?" Linda's silence was the answer. And just like that, the family Daniel had spent decades building began to fall apart. Years later, people would still talk about the Whitmore family. About the man who exposed everything from beyond the grave. About the will that destroyed them. But what stayed with Linda the most wasn't the anger. Or the loss. It was the realization that the man she thought she knew had been watching her the entire time. Waiting. Planning. And when the time came, he didn't just leave them behind. He made sure they would never escape the truth. Because in the end, it wasn't the money that destroyed them. It was what they had been hiding all along. So now I want to ask you. If you were sitting in that room, hearing that will, what would you have done? Would you tell the truth? Or walk away from everything? And before you go, tell me, where are you watching from right now? And what's the weather like where you are? Because stories like this, they don't just stay on the screen. They stay with you.